Good morning. Today we are going to discuss what are the loop controlling statements available in Python. So basically in Python we have two loop controlling statements available, while loop and for loop. And also we have one range inbuilt function. This function mostly we use with for loop. So we are going to discuss all these three things in the lectures today. The first one is the while statement. Now, what is the need of this while? Before going to the discussion of a while statement, we need to understand what is the concept of control statement. Suppose sometime a programmer wants to display certain message like I love Python programming 50 times. Okay, a programmer wants to display a message I love Python programming 50 times. Now, it would be a tedious job for programmer to write the statement 50 times on a computer screen or even on pen and paper. This task can become easy, quick, and accurate if the programmer complete it using the loop instruction in a computer programming language. Basically, in Python, we have the control loop statements available to repeatedly execute a block of code until a condition is satisfied. So here we have this while statement. So the syntax of while statement is while keyword you have to write, and then the expression or the condition you need to specify, then the colon, and then you have to specify the statement or the block of statement belongs to the while expression. Finally, the S2 statement apart from the while. Now, how it works? First, it is going to evaluate the expression, and if the expression is true, then it is going to execute the S1 or the statements written inside the while statement. If it is false, if the expression is false, it is going to execute the S2 statement. That means it come out of the while loop. So first step, you need to evaluate the expression. Second step, if it is true, then it is going to execute the statement 1, and again it will go to the statement 1 in order to evaluate the expression again. So this becomes a loop. Until the condition becomes false, it is going to execute the loop. As soon as my condition becomes false, it come out of the loop and execute the next statement, that is S2. Now let me show you how actually it works. Okay, so let's do some programming so you will get the clear idea how it is actually working. While loop. Suppose I want to print a statement I love Python programming 50 times. I'm going to write like this. Let's assign I equals to 1. Then I'm going to use while the expression I less than equals to 50. Then I'm going to write print I love Python programming. This statement I want to display 50 times. That's why I have written here while I less than 15. Now first time I have written I equals to 1. So we need to increment the value of I. So I am going to increment I by 1. First time it is printed. Then increase the value of I and again go for the condition this time. Then after that I want to print the end of program. Now here in this program you can see It has written I equals to 1. It is going to check while I less than is 50, 1 is less than 50. Yes, it is true. Then it is going to print I love Python programming. Then we are going to increment the value of I by 1. So now I becomes 2. Again, it will go inside the while loop. Again, it is going to check the condition. If condition is true, it is going to again print the I love Python programming. And again, it is going to increment the I. So this will continue until I becomes 51. As soon as I becomes 51 means my condition is false. So as soon as my condition is false, it is going to come out of the loop and it is going to print the end of the program. So let's execute this and you can see the output. So as per the output, you can see I love Python programming. I love Python programming is printed 50 times. And as soon as I becomes 51, you can see the output end of the program statement is executed. So this is how we can use the while loop. Let us discuss the another example. So just show you this. Now, see, this is the flowchart for printing the multiplication table. Suppose I want to print a particular table, suppose 2's table or 5's table. So I'm going to input the value of n from the user, like which part I want to print, which multiplication table I want to print. Then I'm going to initialize I equals to 1 and my condition is going to be I less than equals to 10. Finally, if my condition is true, it is going to execute the print part n multiplied by I is equals to n multiplied by I, which is I equals to I plus 1. And this will continue until my condition becomes false. Once my condition is false, it is going to come out of the loop and it is going to exit. That is what the stop. So from I equals to 1, we are entering into the loop. So that part is entry loop. When condition is false, that is my loop exit part, and this multiplication part is my loop is going to execute until my condition is okay. So let us discuss this with some example so you will get clear idea. So let's read the input from the user. So I'm going to write n equals to, I'm going to use the eval function. Then I'll give a message to a user. Kindly enter a number. After reading the input from the user, I'm going to initialize I equals to 1. Then I'm going to use while I less than equals to 10. Now here I'm going to print a multiplication table. So I will write print comma I. That means I want to print n into I. Then I want to print equals to and finally the result. So here I'm going to use n into I, where actually I'm performing the operation. And finally I'm going to increment the value of I by 1. So I'm going to write I equals to I plus 1. And here I will write print end of multiplication table. In the beginning also I want to print something, so I will write print and multiplication table. This is what I want to print. So my code is done here. Now let me run this. made a mistake here. Instead of print, we need to write an input function which will prompt a message to a user, kindly enter a number. You can see it is asking enter a number. Suppose I enter 5. So you can see 5's multiplication is table is printed. You can see 5 multiplication table which I have written here, print n comma multiplication table. That's why it is printed 5 multiplication table. Then when I is 1, it is going to print 5 into 1 is equals to 5. You can see it has printed 5 into 1 equals to 5. Next time I becomes 2, it has printed 5 into 2 equals to 10 and so on. So in this way, we have printed a 5's table. This is how we can use a while loop. Now, let us discuss the next loop, that is what the for loop. So before discussing the for loop, first we will discuss this range function. So basically range is the inbuilt function which is used to generate a list of integers. The range function has 1 or 2 or 3 parameters. The last 2 parameters in range are optional. For example, here I have written range s comma e comma d. So this is going to generate a list s comma s plus d comma s plus 2 into d dash 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 s plus k into d, where your s plus k into d is either less than e or less than equals to s plus k plus 1 into d. So here my s indicates the starting point and e represent the ending point and d represent the how much you want to take into the account. So the beginning can be specified by means of s, end can be specified by e, and the step, that is the difference among the two numbers in the sequence, can be specified by means of t. Sometimes we can skip e comma d because it's optional. So suppose if I write like this, range s comma e, that means my starting is going to s and my end is going to e, and the step size is going to be 1. So it is equals to s comma e comma 1. Sometimes we skip e comma d, that means my end point we have specified and my starting point is going to be 0. That means this is equivalent to range 0 comma e. Now let's discuss the for loop. So the syntax of my for loop is for variable in sequence and the statements. We need to specify the variable which we want to use in our for loop, and then followed by the sequence. So in sequence, we basically specify the condition as well as the updations together. So here in sequence, we can use the range function. So let us discuss this with example. Suppose I want to print a first 10 natural numbers using for loop. So I'm going to write here for I equals to, or sorry, for I in range. As I said, I want to print first 10 natural numbers. So I'm going to use a range function within for loop. So I have written for I. So I is my variable which is going to vary from 1 to 10. And then in range, I'm specifying my starting point, that is 1, and my ending is going to be 11 because it takes 11 minus 1. As I want to print 1 to 10, so I'm going to take it as a 11. That's it. Then colon, and now I'll write print I. Finally, at the end, I want to print end of for loop. Now let me run this. You can see for I, so starting it has printed 1, then next time I becomes 2. So as I haven't specified the step size, so by default my step size is 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let me modify this. Instead of this, I want to print the odd numbers. So to print this odd number, now I'm going to use a step size of 2. So between 1 to 11, I want to print the odd numbers. I have written 1, 11, 2. Now let me run this. You can see it has printed 1, 3, 5, 7 and 9. Suppose I want to print odd numbers. So I'll copy this. Now instead of starting with 1, let me start with the 0. And now let me run this. So this is going to print the 0 to 11 all even numbers. You can see 0 it has printed, then 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So in this way we can specify the starting point and the ending point as well as the step size which you want to use. Let us do some more programming or some more example using for loop. Suppose I want to add, okay, suppose I want to add all even numbers from 0 to 10. All even numbers from 0 to 10. So I'm going to write here, I'm going to take a variable sum which initially is 0. Then I'm going to use a for loop for I in range zero, have 1, comma 11. Okay, so 1 is my starting point and 11 is my going to be end point. So it will take 1 to 10. And as I said, we have to print all even numbers. As we want to print all even numbers, we will write it as a 2. So my starting point is going to be 0. Okay, then colon, and now I'll write here sum equals to sum plus I. Along with this, let me print the current value of I, so we will get a clear idea whether we are getting the correct output or not. And finally, at the end of this, once all my addition is stored in my sum variable, I'm going to display the result. Sum of even numbers from 1 to 10 is, comma, sum. Okay. Now let me run this. You can see 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. These are my even numbers, and the sum of all even numbers 1 to 10 is 30. So you can see 2 plus 4, 6, 6 plus 6, 12, 12 plus 8, 20, 20 plus 10, 30. So this is how we got the result by using for loop. So I hope you have understood what is the use of while loop and what is the use of for loop. Now let us discuss the next part, that is what the break statement. Again, in along with the while loop and for loop, two more statements available in Python is the break statement and the continue statement. Sometimes we wanted to come out of the loop. We need to come out of the loop. So in that case, we can use the break statement. So basically the keyword break allows a programmer to terminate a loop. When the break statement is encountered inside a loop, the loop is immediately terminated and the program control comes automatically out of the while loop. Now here you can see this is what the working of break in while loop and the working of break in for loop. So we have the while, the expression, it is going to evaluate the expression. If expression is true, it will jump inside the while loop, and inside the while loop we have specified certain condition inside the if statement. So if condition is true or false, if condition is true, then we have written a break statement inside the if. So this will cause a termination of a loop. So in that case, my control come out of the while loop. Same is the case for your for loop as well. In for loop, we can specify a condition inside the if statement. If my condition becomes true, break is going to execute and break will terminate the loop immediately. So we'll discuss one example of this. So you will get a clear idea how actually it works. So let us discuss the execution of a loop using a break statement. Suppose we wanted to print a numbers from 1 to 10. Now here we have written for I in range 1 to 50, comma 1. Now here you can see I wanted to print only number 1 to 10, but in for loop we have specified the range up to 50. So in that case, as I need to terminate the loop as soon as I becomes 11. So what I'm going to do? I'm going to use a break statement inside the if. So I'm going to write if I is equals to 11. Okay. So as soon as my I becomes 11, I want my loop to be terminated. So for that, I'm going to specify a break statement here. Else simply print the value of I. I'm going to write print loop terminated. Let me run this. You can see 1 to 10 and finally the loop terminated. So as soon as my I becomes 11, my loop was terminated. So this is how we can use the break statement here. Same way, we have the one more available, that is the continue statement. Sometimes we want to continue the execution of while and the for loop. So in that case, we can have the continue keyword available in the Python. So this is what the syntax shown: working of continue in while loop and working of continue in for loop. So while it is going to evaluate the expression, if my expression is true, it will goes inside the while loop. So if inside that while statement we have written a if condition, if my condition is true, we have written the continue. So what my continue is going to do, my continue is going to skip the statements written after the if. It is simply go to the while expression again. Same the case for your for loop. So let us discuss this with one example so you will get a clear idea. So let us discuss this with the execution. Suppose I want to print a numbers from 1 to 10 without number 5. Okay, suppose I want to print a numbers from 1 to 10 but without including number 5. So I'm going to write like this: for I in range 1 comma 11, and then step size is 1, then colon. Now here I'm writing if I is equals to 5. Okay, we have written without number 5. That means as soon as my I becomes 5, I don't want to print that. Instead of that, it should goes to my for loop in order to increment the value. So if I is equals to 5, I'm going to write continue. Else simply print the value of I. Let me run this. You can see the numbers from 1 to 10 without 5 is displayed. You can see 1 is printed, 2 is printed, 3 is printed, 4 is printed, and then you can see 5 is not printed. So as soon as my I becomes 5, 5 is equals to 5, condition is true, we have written inside if as a continue. So my continue causes I to be for loop to be called again. Instead of breaking, my for loop is called again. So this is how my continue word works. I hope you all have understood the use of control statements, the use of for loop, while loop, along with break and continue. Thank you.